Henry had spent most of his life serving his country. The years had taught him patience, discipline, and the value of quiet moments. Now retired, he lived alone in a small apartment in the city. His days were predictable, filled with morning walks, reading old letters, and listening to the soft hum of life around him. He had friends from the military, but they were scattered across the country, busy with their own lives. Henry liked it that way. He enjoyed peace and solitude. One rainy afternoon, while he was sorting through old papers, a letter with a strange seal caught his eye. It was thick and heavy, not like the usual bills or advertisements that filled his mailbox. Curious, he opened it carefully. The letter was from a law firm in a town he had never visited. His eyes widened as he read the first line. Dear Mr. Henry Miller, you have inherited a property located in the northern countryside from your late relative, Mr. Thomas Green. Henry leaned back in his chair, the letter trembling slightly in his hands. Thomas Green. The name sounded familiar, though he could not remember the man clearly. He had met many relatives in childhood, people whose faces lingered in faded photographs, but most had faded into distant memories. According to the letter, Thomas had passed away a few months ago and had left the ranch entirely to Henry. A ranch. Henry had never imagined owning a piece of land. He had always lived in cities or small towns, never spending much time outdoors except during military training. The idea of a ranch far away from the noise of the city was both exciting and overwhelming. He could imagine wide fields, animals grazing peacefully, and sunsets stretching endlessly across the horizon. It was a world completely different from the apartment he called home. After reading the letter several times, Henry decided he had to see the ranch for himself. He packed his old duffel bag, choosing only essential clothes and tools. His suitcase felt light, but his mind was heavy with questions. What would the property be like? Was it in good condition, or had it been abandoned? Could he make it his new home, or was it just a memory of a relative he barely knew? The journey to the countryside was long. Henry took a train to the nearest town, enjoying the rhythm of the wheels on the tracks and the view of trees and fields passing by. As the train moved farther from the city, the air seemed cleaner and the sky stretched wider. He watched the sun rise and set during the trip, thinking about the life he had lived and the life that might be waiting for him at the ranch. When Henry finally arrived in the town near the property, he felt a mix of excitement and unease. The town was small and quiet, with dusty streets and friendly faces. People greeted him warmly, though they seemed curious about the newcomer who had come to claim a distant inheritance. Henry asked for directions and soon found himself driving on a narrow dirt road, winding through hills and forests toward the ranch as he approached. He saw the first signs of the property, an old wooden fence, broken in several places, stretching across the front of the land. The house appeared in the distance, large but worn, its paint faded by years of sun and rain. The windows were dusty, and the porch had missing planks, giving it a lonely, forgotten appearance. Henry parked his car and stepped out, feeling the crunch of gravel under his boots. This is it, he whispered to himself, surveying the land. The ranch was larger than he had imagined, with open fields, a barn, and a small pond glimmering under the afternoon sun. Trees lined the edges, their leaves rustling softly in the wind. Despite the neglect, Henry felt a strange sense of peace. The silence was comforting, and the air smelled of earth and grass, a scent he had not noticed in years. Henry started with the house. He walked through the creaking front door and into a dusty living room. Old furniture covered in white sheets suggested someone had left in a hurry, or perhaps simply abandoned the place. A fireplace stood in the corner, surrounded by faded photographs of family gatherings. Henry picked up a photo of a man with kind eyes, standing beside a young boy. He realized it must have been Thomas Green with his son. Though Henry could not recognize the child, the house was full of memories, but also full of emptiness. Cobwebs hung from the corners, and the floorboards creaked under his weight. Henry explored each room carefully, opening cabinets and closets, finding old clothes, books, and letters. Some items were fragile, yellowed with age, yet they seemed to whisper stories of a time long past. He imagined the lives of the people who had lived here, their joys and sorrows, and felt a strange connection to them. Next, he moved outside. The barn loomed large, its wood weathered and cracked. Henry stepped inside, and the smell of hay and dust filled his nose. He ran his hands along old tools and equipment, remembering his own experiences working with machinery during the army. Though abandoned, the barn held potential. He could almost imagine animals roaming freely, and the sound of hooves against the floorboards. Henry walked through the fields, his boots sinking slightly into soft soil. Wildflowers had grown in patches, adding color to the green landscape. Birds sang in the trees, and the pond reflected the sky like a mirror. The ranch was quiet, but it felt alive in its own way. Henry realized that this place, though neglected, held possibilities he had never considered. While exploring, he noticed a rocky outcrop at the far end of the property. The stones were unusual, with patterns and lines that seemed almost deliberate. Henry knelt down, brushing away dirt and leaves. He felt a strange sense of curiosity. Who had made these marks, and why? He traced them with his fingers, wondering if there was more to the land than met the eye. As the sun began to set, Henry returned to the house. The golden light bathed the ranch in warmth, and shadows stretched across the fields. He prepared a simple dinner, eating in the quiet dining room while listening to the wind outside. He thought about the letter that had brought him here and the life he had left behind. This ranch, forgotten by time, had become a mystery waiting to be solved. That night, as Henry lay in the old bed in the guest room, he could hear the sounds of the countryside, crickets chirping, the distant call of an owl, and the rustle of leaves in the wind. Sleep did not come easily. His mind wandered over the possibilities of the ranch. Could he restore it? Could he make it his home? He felt both excited and overwhelmed, unsure of what the future held. By the time morning arrived, Henry had made a decision. He would stay and explore every corner of the ranch. There was something about this land, something hidden beneath its surface, that called to him. He could not explain it, but he knew that the inheritance was more than just property. It was a chance for a new chapter in his life, a place where he could find peace, purpose, and maybe even adventure. Henry spent the morning clearing some of the weeds near the barn, moving old boxes, and inspecting the fence. Every task he completed gave him a sense of accomplishment, and slowly he began to imagine the ranch as it could be, not just as it was. The air smelled fresher, and the sunlight felt warmer, as if the land itself welcomed him. By noon, Henry paused to rest near the pond. He sat on a flat rock, throwing small pebbles into the water, watching the ripples spread outward. He realized that while the ranch seemed empty at first, it was full of potential. Every tree, stone, and field held a story, waiting for him to uncover it. He felt a thrill of anticipation, knowing that this inheritance was not just landed, was a doorway to something unexpected, something extraordinary. Henry looked around at the vast open space, the house, the barn, and the field stretching toward the horizon. He whispered to himself, smiling, "There's nothing here, and yet everything." The words felt right, not as a statement of emptiness, but as an acknowledgement of possibility. The ranch was quiet now, but Henry sensed that it held secrets, stories, and treasures yet to be discovered. He stood up, ready to explore further, and aware that his curiosity would soon lead him to discoveries beyond his imagination. And so, with the first light of hope and determination, Henry stepped forward into his inheritance, ready to uncover the mysteries of the ranch that seemed empty, yet promised much more than he could ever imagine. The next morning, Henry woke to the soft light filtering through the dusty curtains. Birds sang outside, and a gentle breeze moved the leaves of the trees surrounding the house. The ranch felt alive in a way that surprised him. Overnight, the quietness of the land had become comforting rather than empty. With a sense of purpose, he dressed quickly. Ready to explore areas he had only glimpsed the previous day, he began with the barn. Stepping inside, he ran his hands along the wooden beams, feeling their rough texture. Sunlight streamed through small cracks in the walls, creating long, thin lines across the hay-covered floor. Henry noticed old farming tools, some leaning against the wall, some lying on the ground. There were wheelbarrows, plows, and even a wooden cart with chipped paint. Everything seemed forgotten, yet Henry felt that each item had a story to tell. He moved carefully, examining each tool. Some were rusty, some broken, but he could imagine how useful they had once been. He wondered about the people who had worked here, their lives intertwined with the land, their efforts now resting silently in the barn. As he explored, he noticed a small trapdoor near the corner. It was covered with hay and dust, almost invisible. Curiosity tugged at him, and he crouched to lift it. Beneath the trapdoor was a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. Henry paused for a moment. He had learned in the army that sometimes the most unexpected discoveries required careful steps. He grabbed a flashlight from his bag and turned it on, the beam cutting through the blackness. The stairs creaked as he descended slowly. At the bottom, he found a small, stone-walled room. The room was empty except for a few wooden crates stacked against the wall. Henry approached them cautiously, opening one crate at a time. Inside, he found old tools, lanterns, and faded papers. Nothing seemed immediately valuable, but the room itself felt important. The stone walls were cool to the touch, and a faint, earthy smell lingered. Henry wondered why this room had been hidden. Perhaps it had been a storage area for supplies, or a place to keep valuables safe. After exploring the hidden room, Henry returned upstairs, carefully closing the trapdoor behind him. He decided to spend the rest of the morning walking through the fields. The sun was higher now, casting warm light over the ranch. The grass was tall in places, and wildflowers added bright colors to the green landscape. Henry walked slowly, taking in every detail. Each tree, each rock, and each patch of soil seemed to hold a story waiting to be discovered at the far end of the property. Near the rocky outcrop he had noticed the day before, Henry paused. The rocks were unusual, with lines and patterns that looked almost deliberate. He knelt down and traced the shapes with his fingers. There was something strange about them, something that made him feel as if the land itself wanted to share a secret. He studied the rocks for several minutes, then decided to mark the spot with a small piece of chalk from his bag so he could return later. Henry continued walking along the edge of the ranch and discovered a small stream winding through the fields. The water was clear, and fish swam lazily near the surface. He crouched down and dipped his hand into the cold water, enjoying the refreshing sensation. The stream led to a small pond he had noticed the day before, which glimmered in the sunlight. He realized that water was one of the most valuable resources on the ranch, and caring for it would be essential if he wanted to restore the property. As the afternoon approached, Henry decided to inspect the house more carefully. The living room had seemed empty before, but he now noticed small details he had missed. There were books on the shelves, some falling over, some stacked neatly. He pulled out a worn notebook and flipped through its pages. It contained notes about crops, weather patterns, and small observations about daily life. Henry smiled. Even in these simple notes, he felt the presence of those who had lived here. He moved to the kitchen next. The counters were dusty, and old dishes were stacked in the sink. Henry cleaned the surfaces, feeling a sense of accomplishment with each task. He found a tin of dried beans and a few jars of preserves in the pantry. Though old, they were safe to use after careful inspection. Preparing a simple meal in the quiet kitchen made him feel more connected to the ranch. It was not just a property he had inherited, it was a home waiting to be revived. After lunch, Henry focused on the fence surrounding the fields. Several posts were broken, and the wire was sagging in places. He spent hours repairing sections, using tools he had found in the barn. The work was tiring, but he felt satisfaction with each post fixed, each wire tightened. By the end of the day, a part of the ranch was beginning to feel secure again. He stepped back to admire his work, smiling at the small progress he had made, while resting near the repaired fence. Henry noticed something unusual in the distance. A small depression in the ground near the rocks caught his attention. He approached slowly, brushing away dirt and leaves. Beneath the surface, he found a small wooden panel, almost hidden by grass and soil. It looked old and weathered, as if it had been left untouched for decades. Henry's heart raced. He had not expected to find anything so intriguing. He knelt down and tried to lift the panel, but it was heavy. Using a nearby stick for leverage, he managed to pry it open slightly. Beneath it was a dark hole, just wide enough for him to peer inside. The darkness seemed inviting and mysterious, and a strange thrill ran through Henry. Could it be a tunnel or a hidden storage area? He could not tell yet. But he knew he had discovered something important. Henry made a mental note to return later with proper tools. For now, he covered the hole again, ensuring it was safe. He walked back to the house, the excitement of discovery filling his thoughts. The ranch, which had seemed empty and forgotten, was revealing secrets bit by bit. Each discovery made him more eager to explore, more determined to uncover what the land held. The evening brought cooler temperatures, and Henry lit a small fire in the fireplace. He sat near it, sipping warm tea and thinking about the day's events. The hidden room in the barn, the unusual rocks, the secret hole, all suggested that there was more to the ranch than met the eye. Henry felt a sense of anticipation, a feeling that his curiosity would soon be rewarded. That night, sleep came slowly. Henry lay in bed, imagining what might be hidden beneath the surface of the land. Could there be old storage rooms, forgotten tools, or even treasures left by previous owners? He did not know, but the possibilities excited him. The ranch was no longer just a quiet, empty property. It was alive with mystery, waiting for him to uncover its secrets. The next morning, Henry began with the rocky outcrop. He brought a small hammer and chisel from the barn, tools that could help him investigate without causing damage. He studied the rocks carefully, tapping lightly to see if any hollow spaces existed. The patterns seemed deliberate, as if someone had carved them long ago. Henry felt a connection to the person who had done this work. He did not know who it was, but he felt that discovering the truth would be important. Hours passed as he worked carefully, examining every angle and crevice. He found small gaps between rocks, some of them large enough to suggest a hidden space behind them. Henry marked these spots with chalk, planning to investigate further. The work required patience and attention, but he enjoyed the process. Each small discovery gave him confidence that he was on the right track. By afternoon, Henry took a break near the pond. He skipped a few stones across the water, watching the ripples spread outward. The ranch was quiet, but full of life. Birds flew overhead, and the wind carried the scent of wildflowers and fresh soil. Henry felt at peace. This land, which had seemed abandoned, was becoming a place of hope and purpose. He realized that exploring the ranch was not just about uncovering secrets. It was about connecting with the land, understanding its history, and imagining its future. As the sun began to set, Henry returned to the house. He prepared a simple dinner, reflecting on the day. The hidden room in the barn, the mysterious rocks, and the secret hole were all clues to the past. He knew he had to continue exploring, but he also understood the importance of caution. The ranch held many mysteries, and each step forward required careful thought and preparation before going to bed. Henry wrote notes about his findings in a small journal. He described the rocks, the hidden room, and the hole, adding sketches and measurements. Writing helped him organize his thoughts and plan his next steps. He felt a growing excitement. The ranch was no longer just land. It was a puzzle, a story waiting to be told, and he was determined to uncover it. That night, as Henry lay in bed, he felt a sense of connection with the land and its history. The ranch had been abandoned, yes, but it was far from empty. Every corner, every stone, every tree held a story. And Henry, with patience and curiosity, was ready to listen, ready to explore, and ready to discover the hidden treasures that the ranch had kept secret for so long. With a heart full of anticipation, he drifted into sleep, dreaming of the adventures that awaited him. The ranch, once quiet and forgotten, had begun to reveal its secrets, and Henry knew that his journey had only just begun. The morning sun stretched over the ranch, painting the fields with golden light. Henry rose early, excitement pulling him out of bed before the birds had even finished their morning songs. The discoveries of the previous day, the hidden room, the mysterious rocks, and the small hole near the rocky outcrop had filled his mind with questions. He was determined to find answers today. After a quick breakfast of bread and fresh tea, Henry grabbed a backpack with essentials: flashlight, gloves, small hammer, rope, and a notebook for notes and sketches. He also carried a sturdy shovel and a small pickaxe he had found in the barn. These tools would be useful if the land held secrets hidden under the soil or rocks. With everything ready, he set off toward the rocky outcrop. The field stretched before him, bathed in morning light. The pond glimmered nearby, and the wind carried the scent of grass and wildflowers. Henry felt a deep connection to the land, as if it were welcoming him to uncover its secrets. He reached the rocks he had studied before and knelt down, brushing away the grass and dirt around the small hole he had found. The opening was just big enough to peer inside. Taking a deep breath, Henry shone his flashlight into the darkness. The beam revealed a narrow tunnel carved into the rock. The walls were rough but sturdy, and the air smelled earthy and cool. He felt a shiver of excitement. This was no ordinary hole. It was an entrance to something hidden, something deliberately concealed. Henry knew he had stumbled upon a secret that had been untouched for decades. He crawled into the tunnel slowly, feeling the cool stone beneath his hands. The space was tight at first, but after a few feet, it widened into a small chamber. Henry paused to catch his breath, listening to the faint sound of water dripping from the ceiling. The light from his flashlight revealed marks on the walls, small scratches that seemed to be evidence of human activity long ago. Someone had carved this space carefully, leaving traces of their presence behind. Henry moved deeper into the chamber, brushing away dirt and rocks. Soon, he noticed a faint glimmer in the corner. His heart began to race. He approached slowly, shining the light more closely on the spot. The walls of the chamber were lined with veins of something golden, catching the beam and reflecting it in tiny sparks. Henry's eyes widened. Could this really be gold? The thought made his pulse quicken. He knelt down, running his fingers over the rough surface. The golden veins were real, embedded deep in the rock. For a moment, Henry could hardly believe it. The ranch, which had seemed empty and forgotten, held a hidden treasure beneath its surface. He remembered the old stories he had heard in childhood about secret mines and hidden wealth. Now he realized that those stories might not have been just myths. This mine had been carefully concealed, perhaps by someone in his family or by a previous owner who wanted to protect it. Henry explored the chamber further, making careful notes in his notebook. He measured the width and height of the tunnel, sketched the location of the golden veins, marked areas where the rock seemed easier to work with. Every detail mattered. This discovery was too important to rush. He felt a growing sense of responsibility. The mine was a treasure, yes, but it was also a part of the ranch's history. Preserving it would be just as important as using it wisely as he worked. Henry thought about the effort it would take to restore the mine safely. The tunnel was stable, but he would need supports and tools to expand it without causing any damage. He also considered how to keep it hidden until he was ready to reveal it. The thought of having a secret, a hidden gem beneath the ranch, filled him with excitement. It was like holding a piece of history in his hands. After several hours of careful exploration, Henry decided it was time to return to the surface. He wanted to rest and plan his next steps. Crawling back through the narrow tunnel, he felt the cool earth surround him, a reminder of the mystery he had uncovered. When he emerged into the sunlight, he breathed deeply, enjoying the warmth and the fresh air. The world above ground seemed brighter and more alive than ever. Henry spent the afternoon thinking about the mine. He walked through the fields, imagining how he could expand the tunnel safely and create a secure area for the treasure. He realized that this discovery could change his life, but he also understood that it was not just about wealth. The hidden mine was a challenge, an adventure, and a connection to the past. He felt proud to be the one entrusted with its secret. That evening, Henry returned to the house and prepared a simple dinner. He sat by the fireplace, writing in his journal about the mine and his plans. He described the golden veins, the size of the chamber, and the marks on the walls. He also sketched the location of the entrance in relation to the rocks and the surrounding land. Writing everything down made him feel organized and focused. He wanted to make sure nothing was forgotten, and he wanted to understand every detail of the discovery as night fell. Henry sat by the window, looking out over the ranch. The moon reflected on the pond, and the stars filled the sky. The quietness of the land felt different now. It was no longer empty. It was full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Henry realized that the mine was only the beginning. There could be more hidden spaces, more mysteries waiting beneath the surface. The thought filled him with wonder and determination. The next morning, Henry returned to the rocky outcrop, ready to explore further. He brought additional tools from the barn, including a stronger pickaxe and a sturdy rope. He also carried a small lantern, in case the flashlight batteries ran out. The excitement of the previous day gave him energy. He felt eager to learn more about the mine and its history. Carefully, he descended into the tunnel again. The air inside was cool and slightly damp. Henry moved slowly, examining the walls and floor for any signs of instability. He noticed small tunnels branching off from the main chamber, almost hidden and covered with dirt. He cleared away the debris and discovered that some of these side tunnels led to smaller chambers, each with faint traces of gold and other minerals. The hidden mine was larger than he had first realized. Henry worked steadily, making notes and sketches of every passage and chamber he found. The thrill of discovery kept him focused, but he also remained cautious. He remembered the lessons from his military days. Careful planning, attention to detail, and patience were key to success. Every step he took in the mine was deliberate, and he made sure to mark the location of each new chamber carefully. By late afternoon, Henry had explored several chambers and found more veins of gold. The walls sparkled in the lantern light, creating a magical atmosphere. He paused for a moment, taking in the sight. The hidden mine was beautiful, a combination of natural formation and human effort. He felt a deep sense of respect for those who had created it and preserved it for so long. After returning to the surface, Henry rested near the pond. He watched the sunlight glint on the water and thought about the mine. It was not just a source of wealth. It was a place of history, mystery, and wonder. He realized that he had been given a rare opportunity to uncover and protect something that had been hidden for generations. The responsibility felt heavy, but it also felt right. That evening, Henry prepared dinner and sat by the fireplace reflecting on the day. He wrote more notes in his journal describing the new chambers and the golden veins. He also made plans for the coming days, reinforcing the tunnels, mapping the entire mine, and finding safe ways to explore further. The discovery had changed everything. The ranch, once quiet and forgotten, had become a place of adventure, purpose, and potential. As night fell, Henry looked out the window again. The stars shone brightly, and the ranch seemed alive with possibility. He felt a sense of connection to the land and its hidden treasures. The mine was a secret, yes, but it was also a gift, a challenge, and a source of hope. Henry knew that he had only just begun to uncover its mysteries, and he was ready for whatever lay ahead. With a heart full of anticipation, Henry went to bed, dreaming of the hidden chambers, sparkling gold, and the adventures that awaited him. The ranch had revealed its first secret, but he knew there were more to come. He felt ready, determined, and inspired. The journey had only begun, and the possibilities were endless. Henry woke to a bright morning at the ranch, the sun spilling gold across the fields. After several days of exploration, he felt both excitement and responsibility. The hidden mine had been discovered, and its secrets were slowly being revealed. But Henry realized that finding the treasure was only the beginning. Restoring the ranch and caring for the land would take effort, patience, and careful planning. Today, he decided, would be a day of choices. He dressed quickly and stepped outside, breathing in the fresh air. The fields stretched endlessly, dotted with wildflowers and framed by the distant hills. The pond reflected the sky, and birds sang in the trees. Henry walked toward the barn, taking in the beauty of the land he had inherited. He felt a sense of peace, but also a determination. The ranch needed him, and he was ready to give it his time and energy. Henry started with the mine. He had spent hours exploring the tunnels, mapping the chambers, and noting the locations of the golden veins. Now, he wanted to make the mine safer and easier to navigate. He grabbed tools from the barn, wooden planks, rope, and a sturdy ladder, and returned to the rocky outcrop. The sunlight highlighted the entrance, and Henry felt a thrill of anticipation. Today, he would begin to transform the mine from a hidden secret into a secure, manageable space. The first task was reinforcing the tunnel walls. Henry carefully measured the stone and began placing wooden beams in key spots. Each beam added stability and made the space feel more secure. He worked slowly and methodically, ensuring that the structure would hold for years to come. The labor was tiring, but Henry felt a deep satisfaction. Every plank he placed brought him closer to making the mine safe and usable. Once the walls were reinforced, Henry focused on the floor. Some areas were uneven or covered with loose stones. He swept and leveled the ground, making it easier to walk through the chambers. As he worked, he noticed small cracks in the walls and ceiling, evidence of natural shifts in the rock over time. Henry carefully marked these areas and planned to reinforce them in the coming days. He wanted the mine to be both safe and durable, a place he could return to without worry. Hours passed, and Henry took a break to eat a small lunch of bread, cheese, and apples. He sat near the entrance of the mine, looking out over the fields. The ranch seemed peaceful, but Henry knew that the real work was just beginning. Restoring the mine was one thing, but the ranch itself needed attention as well. Fences had to be repaired, fields cleared, and the house restored. Henry realized that his days would be full, but he welcomed the challenge. In the afternoon, he turned his attention to the barn. The roof had a few damaged areas, and some of the floorboards were weak. Henry climbed carefully and replaced the damaged wood, securing loose nails and making the structure sturdy again. He also organized the tools and equipment inside the barn, arranging them neatly on shelves and in racks. The space became functional once more, ready for future use. The transformation gave Henry a sense of accomplishment. The ranch was slowly coming back to life under his care. Next, Henry moved to the fields. Some areas were overgrown with weeds and tall grass, making it difficult to see the ground clearly. He spent the afternoon clearing paths, cutting back brush, and trimming small trees. Each swing of the saw and each pull of weeds revealed more of the land's natural beauty. The fields were wide and fertile, and Henry could imagine planting crops, creating gardens, and raising animals in the future. The ranch held potential, and he felt a growing excitement for the possibilities ahead as he worked. Henry thought about the mine. The golden veins were tempting, a valuable resource that could change his life. But he also realized that the true value of the ranch was not just in the treasure beneath the ground. The land itself, the house, the barn, and the fields were treasures too. They offered peace, purpose, and connection. Henry decided that he would use the gold wisely, but he would not let it overshadow the care and attention the ranch needed. Evening arrived. Henry returned to the house. He prepared a simple dinner and sat by the fireplace, reflecting on the day. The ranch had been abandoned for years, but it was slowly becoming alive again. The mine was secured, the barn repaired, and the fields cleared. Henry felt a sense of pride and responsibility. He knew that restoring the ranch was a long-term project, but he was ready for it. After dinner, Henry sat by the window, looking out over the pond. The moon rose slowly, casting silver light across the fields. Henry thought about the future. He could sell the gold from the mine and leave the ranch behind, but he did not want to do that. This land had chosen him in a way, and he wanted to honor it. He decided that he would restore the ranch, protect the mine, and build a life here. The decision felt right, as if the land itself approved of his choice. Henry spent the next few days making plans. He mapped the property carefully, marking areas that needed repair, fields that could be planted, and sections of the mine that required reinforcement. He made a schedule for himself, dividing tasks into manageable steps. Each day would include time for exploring the mine, maintaining the ranch, and observing the land. The plan gave him structure. He felt confident that he could achieve his goals. As the days passed, Henry began to see small signs of progress. The fences were repaired, and sections of the fields were cleared. He discovered a small grove of fruit trees near the edge of the property, their branches heavy with ripening fruit. He harvested some of the apples and pears, enjoying the taste of fresh fruit he had grown to appreciate in his childhood. The simple pleasures of the ranch brought him joy, and he felt connected to the land in a way he had never experienced before. Henry also explored the surrounding area. Learning about the natural features of the ranch, he discovered a small stream that flowed into the pond, providing water for irrigation and animals. He noted areas where the soil was rich and fertile, suitable for planting crops or gardens. He marked spots for future projects such as building a small greenhouse or creating a vegetable patch. Every discovery made the ranch feel more alive and full of potential. While working on the ranch, Henry kept thinking about the mine. He spent hours inside, reinforcing walls, clearing debris, and studying the golden veins. He realized that the mine was not just a source of wealth, but a connection to history. Someone had created it long ago, carefully and intentionally. Preserving it felt like honoring the past. And Henry took the responsibility seriously. One afternoon, as he was exploring a side tunnel in the mine, Henry found something unusual. A small wooden box was tucked into a corner, hidden behind loose stones. He opened it carefully and found old coins, letters, and trinkets. The items were fragile but fascinating, a glimpse into the lives of those who had lived or worked on the ranch long ago. Henry carefully documented the find, taking notes and making sketches. The discovery reminded him that the ranch held more than just natural beauty and gold. It held stories, memories, and history. Henry realized that restoring the ranch and exploring the mine were intertwined. Each task he completed above ground made his work in the tunnels safer and easier. Each discovery in the mine inspired him to care for the land more carefully. The ranch was no longer just property. It was a living, breathing place that needed attention, respect, and imagination. Henry felt proud to be part of its story. As the week progressed, Henry noticed changes in himself as well. He felt stronger, healthier, and more connected to the world around him. The physical labor of repairing fences, clearing fields, and working in the mine had given him energy and purpose. The quiet moments by the pond, watching the birds and the sunlight on the water, brought him peace. Henry realized that the ranch was giving him more than he had expected. It was giving him a life filled with meaning. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Henry stood on the porch of the house, looking out over the ranch. The fields were neat, the barns sturdy, and the mine secure. He thought about the decisions he had made, choosing to stay, choosing to care for the land, and choosing to honor the mine's secrets. Each decision felt right, and Henry felt a sense of satisfaction and pride. The ranch was no longer abandoned. It was alive, full of potential, and ready for the future. Henry knew that challenges still lay ahead. The work was far from finished, and there would be obstacles to overcome. Weather could damage the fields, repairs could take longer than expected, and exploring the mine fully would require patience. But Henry felt ready. He had a plan, determination, and a growing understanding of the land. The ranch had given him purpose, and he was ready to embrace it fully. That night, Henry sat by the fireplace, writing in his journal. He described the progress he had made, the discoveries he had found, and the plans for the future. He noted the locations of the golden veins in the mine, the areas of the ranch that needed more work, and the places he wanted to explore further. Writing everything down helped him organize his thoughts and focus on the tasks ahead. As he closed his journal and prepared for bed, Henry felt a deep sense of gratitude. The ranch had come into his life unexpectedly, but it had given him more than he could have imagined. It had given him purpose, adventure, and connection. The hidden mine had been a remarkable discovery, but the true treasure was the ranch itself and the life he could build here. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting warm light across the fields. Henry stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the fresh, crisp air. The ranch looked different now. The fences were repaired, the fields cleared, and the barns sturdy and organized. Even the small pond shimmered brightly in the sunlight, reflecting the trees and the sky. Henry felt a sense of pride as he looked over the land. This was no longer a forgotten place. It was alive, full of promise, and ready for the future. Henry's thoughts turned to the mine. The hidden treasure he had discovered beneath the rocks had been both exciting and humbling. He had spent weeks carefully reinforcing the tunnels, mapping the chambers, and ensuring that the golden veins were secure. The mine was no longer just a secret. It was a well-protected part of the ranch, a reminder of the history and care that had gone into creating it. Henry knew that it would provide him with opportunities. But he also understood the importance of respecting its value and preserving it for the future. After breakfast, Henry decided to spend the day exploring more of the property. He walked along the fields, taking note of areas where he could plant crops and build small gardens. He imagined rows of vegetables, fruit trees, and flowers, adding color and life to the land. He thought about raising a few animals in the future, a small herd of cows, some chickens, and maybe even a few goats. Each idea filled him with excitement, and he felt a growing sense of purpose as he walked. Henry discovered a small grove of wildflowers that he had not noticed before. The colors were bright and vibrant, and the flowers filled the air with a soft, sweet fragrance. He smiled, realizing that nature had its own way of decorating the land. The ranch was full of hidden beauty, just waiting to be appreciated and nurtured. He carefully marked the grove in his notebook, planning to protect it, and perhaps expand it over time. Henry returned to the barn in the afternoon to organize his tools and supplies. The space was neat and functional, making it easier for him to work efficiently. He found some old boxes that had been forgotten, and inside were additional tools, nails, and ropes. Everything he found added to the sense that the ranch had been prepared for someone like him. It was as if the land itself had been waiting for the right caretaker to bring it back to life. After organizing the barn, Henry walked toward the pond. He had been thinking about how he could improve the water supply for the ranch. The stream that fed the pond was clear and steady, but he wanted to ensure it could provide water for future crops and animals. Henry spent the afternoon studying the flow of water, noting areas where he could dig small channels to distribute water more effectively. Each improvement he planned would make the ranch more self-sufficient and productive. As the sun began to set, Henry returned to the house. He prepared a simple meal and sat by the fireplace, reflecting on everything he had accomplished. The ranch had transformed remarkably since he had arrived. What had once seemed abandoned and empty was now alive, cared for, and full of potential. Henry felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His work had made a difference, and he knew that the ranch would continue to grow and thrive under his care. That night, Henry sat by the window, looking at the stars reflected in the pond. The quiet of the ranch felt comforting, and he realized that he had found a place where he truly belonged. The mine, the fields, the barn, and the house all held a special significance. They were more than just property. They were part of his life, a place where he could build a future filled with purpose and joy. In the following weeks, Henry continued to improve the ranch. He planted small gardens near the house, filled with vegetables and herbs. He cleared additional sections of the fields, preparing them for future planting. He repaired more sections of the fence and added small wooden gates to make it easier to manage the land. Each task, though sometimes tiring, brought him closer to the vision he had for the ranch. Henry also explored the mine further. He discovered a few more hidden chambers, each containing small deposits of gold and other minerals. He documented everything carefully, ensuring that he had a complete map of the tunnels. He reinforced weak areas and installed wooden walkways to make it easier to navigate. The mine was no longer a mysterious and hidden place. It was a secure and well-maintained part of the ranch. Henry felt a sense of pride in his careful work. One day, while exploring a side tunnel in the mine, Henry found another small box tucked behind a stone wall. Inside were old letters, photographs, and coins. The letters told stories of the people who had lived on the ranch long ago. They spoke of daily life, of challenges, and of the love they had for the land. Henry read each letter carefully, feeling a connection to those who had come before him. He realized that the ranch was not just a place of natural beauty and hidden treasure. It was a place full of memories and history. Henry decided to preserve these items. He cleaned them gently and placed them in a safe box inside the house. He wanted to honor the past while building a future. The discovery reminded him that the true value of the ranch was not just in the gold, but in the connection to history and the joy of caring for the land. Each day brought new lessons, new discoveries, and new opportunities to grow. As summer arrived, the ranch blossomed under Henry's care. The gardens flourished, the fields turned green and productive, and the barn became a hub of activity. Henry planted fruit trees, built small shelters for animals, and added benches near the pond for quiet reflection. The ranch was no longer just a piece of land. It was a home, a sanctuary, and a place of endless possibilities. Neighbors began to notice the changes. People from the nearby town visited occasionally, curious about the progress Henry had made. They were impressed by the transformation, and some offered advice or assistance. Henry welcomed their help, enjoying the sense of community. The ranch was no longer isolated. It had become a part of the wider world, yet it retained its quiet charm and beauty. Henry also began thinking about the future. He planned to continue exploring the mine, carefully extracting small amounts of gold to fund further improvements to the ranch. He wanted to maintain a balance between using the resources and preserving the land's natural and historical value. Each decision was made thoughtfully, ensuring that the ranch would thrive for years to come. One morning, Henry climbed a small hill near the edge of the property. From there, he could see the entire ranch, the fields, the pond, the barn, and the house. The sight filled him with a sense of accomplishment and joy. He realized how far he had come since the day he arrived. The ranch had gone from abandoned and forgotten to alive and thriving. Henry felt a deep sense of connection to the land and a sense of pride in what he had achieved. As the seasons changed, Henry continued to work tirelessly. He built small pathways through the fields, added flower gardens around the house, and created a small orchard. He explored additional parts of the mine, uncovering more veins of gold and securing the tunnels. Each day brought new challenges and rewards, and Henry embraced them fully. The ranch had become more than an inheritance. It had become his life's purpose and joy. In the quiet evenings, Henry often sat by the fireplace or near the pond, reflecting on the journey. He thought about the first day he had arrived, the letter that had brought him here, and the first glimpse of the abandoned house. The contrast with the vibrant, thriving ranch of today filled him with gratitude. The work had been hard, but the rewards, peace, fulfillment, and connection were priceless. Henry also took time to enjoy the simple pleasures of ranch life. He watched the sun set over the fields, listened to the wind in the trees, and observed the birds and animals that had returned to the land. Each day was filled with small joys that made him appreciate the world around him. The ranch had taught him patience, observation, and the satisfaction of hard work. As winter approached, Henry prepared the ranch for the colder months. He stocked the barn with supplies, ensured the mine was safe, and tended to the animals and gardens. The land was ready to rest during the winter, and Henry took satisfaction in knowing that his care had made it resilient and strong. He spent quiet evenings by the fire, planning for the spring and dreaming of new projects. By the time spring returned, the ranch was fully transformed. Crops were planted, animals were healthy, and the mine was secure. The property was not just a home. It was a thriving ecosystem, full of life and potential. Henry felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The ranch had gone from abandoned to extraordinary, and he had been the one to guide it through the transformation. One evening, as he watched the sunset, Henry reflected on the journey. He had inherited what seemed like nothing, but he had discovered more than he could have imagined. The hidden mine had been an exciting surprise, but the true treasure had been the land itself and the life he had built on it. The ranch had given him purpose, adventure, and peace. He smiled, knowing that he had found a place where he truly belonged. Henry's days were now filled with balance. He spent mornings exploring and maintaining the ranch, afternoons in the fields or mine, and evenings reflecting by the fire or pond. The life he had built was fulfilling, peaceful, and meaningful. The ranch had become a part of him, and he a part of it.